and welcome to my studio and to an art journal tour. I'm so excited. If you have been watching this channel for a while, you will know that I was on a bit of a mission to get as many journal pages as I could done, and we actually completed this journal in that video. You can go back and watch that. It's not going to spoil this video if you've not seen it, but if you do want to go watch that first, feel free. I'll give you a minute. Okay, so yeah, I've actually finished this one quite quickly. I think we've learnt a lot in the process. I have gone back to my roots with art journaling and viewed it as a safe place to experiment as opposed to trying to come out with the perfect page every time. Anyway, without further ado, shall we look and see what art we can find in here? So I actually only started this journal about 2 months ago. I think this is the quickest I've ever completed a journal, so that's been interesting. I wonder if my more relaxed approach has meant that I've just been, you know, less precious with it. So I started off this one. So I created a video on how to start an art journal that you will love and sort of getting over that fear of a blank page, especially when it comes to a brand new journal. So on the front page, I put this here. This is a space to explore, not impress. I'm allowed to make ugly pages. Perfection is not the point. And it's just a reminder that I'm here to learn. So one of the tips that I gave was to create outside of your journal, and that's what I did with this one. So this was created on a separate piece of paper using the Enchanted Forest collection, and then I added that in. This one just show you don't have to have a completed page to say that it's a completed page. You know, this is just a background play, and I have learnt something from it, and it is pretty, so it doesn't matter that it doesn't have a focal image and a sentiment. It is still a page that is completed in my journal. This one I was playing with a technique that I have done a few times, which was I actually put colour on a stencil and then kind of layered over with a few acrylic markers. This was a quick, simple page. And this was a suggestion that, again, that I had for getting started in that particular video. And this was like I took a design from a card that I liked and then transferred it into my journal. This one we have like Libby's Bakery. Actually, these little bits here took ages. I drew through those with a stencil and coloured them in, and then just sort of created detail around this corner. Left lots of white space, which is quite unusual for me. And yeah, I quite like how that one turned out. It's cute. This one, oh my goodness. This started my obsession with pastels. So I did a video where I was using forgotten art supplies, and I've had pastels in my stash for more years than I care to admit and never really used them. And I watched Emma Rule Art, I will link to her, and she uses pastels a lot, and having watched her, I've started to play more. So this, I kind of did a base layer with alcohol markers, then I built it up with the pastels, and then finally got the final depth using pencils, and herein started the obsession with pastels. Again, this was me playing with pastels, not quite as successfully, but we got there in the end. I ended up having to bring in my acrylic markers and things just to kind of help it work in a way that I liked, and that's okay. Sometimes if you're learning to use a new supply, you don't have to think your page has to be done with that supply from beginning to end for you to have successfully learnt. You are allowed to kind of tweak it so that you like it, and that's okay. I've got a lot of learning to do with soft pastels, so I'm getting more confident with those in the pan, but these were done with soft pastels. This one, I've just realised this one's had a bit of transfer, but we'll ignore that. This one is one of Erica's stamps, and absolutely love. I see I'm going to have to, it's annoying me, I'm going to have to protect some of these pages a little bit better. But if that happens, you can just lift using one of these sticky markers like that. And so I will probably do that, and I will probably put a protective sheet. But yeah, let's just take some of the green off her face, because it's upsetting me, even though like you're not probably that worried. It's upsetting me, and I know I can just improve it slightly. There we go. So this was using Erica's Stampanori stamps. How I did this was I covered her in alcohol markers first, and then I built up her makeup using pastels. This was me learning to play with watercolour inks, which I enjoyed here, but I struggled with in other things. So I just kind of put an inky galaxy background down. I stamped with white embossing powder and then used a little bit of gesso and sort of moved the pigment that was in the watercolour with the gesso and sort of created this very ethereal look. This was me swatching, so you find this a lot in this journal, that I just swatch, and that's okay. This was me trying to play with the acrylic inks. These are actually watercolour inks, sorry, and we have a burnt. I just don't like him, but anyway. This one actually was a page that started off as a complete disaster. I was again playing with the watercolour inks, wasn't liking how it was coming out, and just ended up pattern building with stamps and stencils. This is not my usual style at all, and for most of this page I was thinking, oh, what a mess, but it was fine. I just realised, you know what, I don't need a focal point, and in the end I just used a little bit of a sentiment, and that was fine. Again, this was me playing with the watercolour inks. I was determined to try and get a page I liked. Not my favourite. I think if I was to do it again, what I would do is print these images out as a digi-stamp and hand colour them. I don't really like how the contrast of how they look printed out. They're great for a quick and easy card, printing out coloured images, but I just don't think it worked particularly well with the background. I tried my best to blend it in with dots and things. It's okay, but it's not my favourite. This one I adore. And again, this was in this kind of forgotten supplies. I was playing with mica powders, and what I did was I sort of wet this area here and splashed in the mica powders. And what I love is that it means that green has come all the way down the tree. And see, when you go for walks in the forest, there are so few trees that are actually brown. A lot of them are green and grey, and there's a lot of colour in the bark of wood. So, and I love how that's kind of interpreted just by using the supply of mica powders. So I like that one. This one I did as a live, and again I was just playing with a little bit of watercolour. We've done some stamping with embossing and then used a few elements from my bit box. Quick and easy, and it's okay. More swatching. I treated myself to some Liquitex gouache. I actually need to properly play with these. So yeah, but that's me done some swatching. This was a series of paintings or pages that I did inspired by the Taylor Swift Life of a Showgirl, because the announcement for the album had just come up, so I was trying to play with the orange and the teal. This one, orange is not my favourite colour, and the more I was playing with the page, the more orange it got, strangely enough, and I wasn't loving it. But then I put this on, and I actually quite like this. And I've actually put a wee note here, inspired by Taylor Swift. Now, this page I do not like, but I do like it, and let me explain. So I don't like the way it turned out at all. Again, I was inspired by the Taylor Swift album, and I was going for that kind of look of underwater, because obviously she's underwater in the cover, and I tried this technique, which is the first time I tried it, and I don't think it was particularly successful. What I do learn about this is I learned so much from this page. And now approaching this technique, I would approach it completely differently and with a lot more success, which we will see. And this is the whole point of journaling. It's about a safe space to learn. So this one didn't turn out great, but that's okay. I learned from it, and that is the point of a journal. So again, I did a whole series of pages inspired. It was a video, so it was all inspired by this album. This is a bit of Jane Davenport paper. Again, have the colours of her album. And then just as I was making the page, it was announced that she'd got engaged, and then the paper actually had yes written it. So I just put that down there. This was me playing with the two different colourways. I was trying a different style. I was trying to work with pattern building. I don't think it's overly successful. But I think if I was to do it again, I would maybe have more contrast in some of the areas where the pattern is in. It's okay-ish, but it's not my favourite. This is what I mean about where you learn from. This I adore. So this is a stamp from the lovely Erica. It's another Stampanori one. I coloured her with alcohol markers, and then I used alcohol markers in the background to create the water effect, but I then used pastels to create depth, and I kind of brought that blue over her face. Then I brought the line work over her face as well as behind, and I do think it looks like she is in water, and it kind of really reminds me of Ophelia there. So I love how that turned out. But if I hadn't made the mistakes that I'd made in the other page, I would never have had the skill set to create this. And this is what I mean about a journal being a safe space to learn. This one, I just sprinkled mica powders over. We had quite a lot of bleed through. You can still see some of the bleed through there. Those are like the kind of skin parts of the colouring that was done over there. But yeah, I think it works, and because we've made it very patchy colour. This I did when I was trying to see how many pages I could complete in one day. And we've got the gorgeous mica background, and this I found in my bit box from a reverse stenciling video, and we put it together and it looks okay. Here again, this is what excites me about this journal, is I have random pages like this that are quite frankly ugly, but these are good learning things. So I was playing with a 10 colour biro. I really want to be able to draw and to colour with biro. I think it's a really cool technique. It's also a cheap and cheerful supply, which anyone can get hold of. So this was me sort of swatching what would happen if I put colours over each other. I then sort of tried stamping the same image, and I've done it with different colours. So this one was like brown, this was brown and orange, this was brown, pink and orange, and this was brown, orange and yellow. And then I tried swatching it. I also then wanted to see how it reacted with different things. So I've got it with pan pastels, I've got it with acrylic markers, watercolours and alcohol markers, and just to sort of see how it reacted. I went from this scribbly page, which again is learning, and this is what I love seeing in a journal, and I'm so pleased to have gone back to this, because my first journals were like this. There was rubbish in amongst good stuff. But then I fell for the social media trap and started needing every page to be perfect. And now it's like, no, it's a place to learn. And this page just proves that point. From that page, I then went on to create this. I still cannot believe, even when I'm looking at it now, that I created this entire page just using a biro pen. One of those children's pen that was 10 colours in one pen. And so this was some of my stamps, and then I've literally just coloured that up using a biro, but I think it's really fun. Because I went full blown into colour, I felt like I hadn't given the actual biro technique enough practice. So I tried a more monochromatic look. I think this one turned out well. This one I tried to add in a bit of extra shading using a red pen. I don't think I did that as successfully. So this technique is something that I maybe need to experiment with a little bit more. This was me again playing with biro, but first of all I put down watercolour, and then I tried to kind of build up some of the shadow areas using a biro and a cross hatching technique. This one is really quirky. I mean, why would you have a cap in the middle of a forest? But I absolutely love how this turned out. Again, this was me playing with pastels, and I was able to create this nice baroque effect because of the pastels. We've then come in with pencils to kind of add depth to all the acorns and things, and I love this gorgeous autumnal vibe, and I think it's really fun. Again, obviously obsessed by that technique and repeated it. We've got the same stamps, but they look really different because we have put them with this gorgeous tree stamp and little Lady Oaks herself, and it created this little scene here. I was definitely inspired by autumn through this phase. This one I wanted it to look like the mouse had been just sort of swept along. All of these are in a video. Actually, most of the pages that I've seen here have videos attached to them. So do check out my playlist on art journaling, because you'll find most of these. This is right in the autumn ideas one. Again, this was in the autumn ideas one, not my most successful my successful page, sorry. I don't particularly like how it's turned out, but one thing that I did learn whilst doing this is I was trying to use ephemera, and for me sometimes ephemera can just look a bit meh. It looks kind of shiny and stuff when you put it against some of your other mediums. I'm not overly keen. And then I wanted to create this sort of shading between the pumpkins and the house. I think if the house had been a bit straighter, and then we probably need a bit more solid glow behind the house rather than what we've got. I think that's what would improve it. But what I did learn was if I put like a grey marker on the ephemera, even though it was like a shiny piece of ephemera, it did knock it back, and it did manage to create these sort of shaded areas. That I loved learning, that I will take forward into other makes. So I still learnt from this page, even though it's not my favourite. This was me trying to prep for the workshop. I didn't end up going with this idea, but it sort of led to where we went. This was my workshop page here, and then I did it again in different colourways, and then I did it again when I filmed the video. So yeah, lots of pages the same there. This was me back into my autumn vibes and loving it. So again, for some reason we're drinking in the forest. why not? Best place to have a hot chocolate. I think I'd take it in a thermos though, rather than a great big mug, but there you go. Pastels in the background, building up that, and I think we've got some distress inks in there with a stencil. Built up the forest floor with lots of acrylic inks, acrylic markers, and we've done a little paper pieced outfit on her. In my Peachtober video, I talk about the fact that I was having to trace because I was on holiday and then colour, and I really liked the no lines effect that it created. So this I did in a live. I do go live on YouTube every Monday at 7:30. And so this was a live that I did, and I used one of my stamps, but instead of stamping it in black, I stamped it in a really soft grey and then coloured it up, and was able to kind of create cute shadows and things using pencils. And I love this no line look. I think that it's really fun. This was a page that was a bit of a mop up. So we were mopping up stencils over here. I challenged myself to see how many pages I could make in a day. And so I was trying to go quick, and I had originally put these down and thought, oh, they'd be really steampunky, and I was going to look for an image that was steampunky, but I had nothing coloured up that was the right colourway. I did, however, have her, so I changed it and kind of had it on clouds, and I think it works because this no longer looks like hogs, it looks like starbursts. But it was a bit of a series of mistakes, but the series of mistakes ended up leading to a page that I liked. So that was quite an interesting process, that one. This one was a quick and easy page. I was going for a bit of a pop art look. These are art inspiration stamps. And my idea was, well, I was meant to have a bit more space, to be honest. They weren't meant to be all joined together, but a bit carried away in the painting process. But what I've done is I've got elements of pink up here, elements of yellow down there, elements of green down here, and elements of teal up there. I don't know if that kind of carries through, because I maybe should have kind of gone in with the actual gouache that I was using rather than my paint pens. But I was on a mission to get as many done as possible, and it was the quickest way of doing it. Then with the leftover gouache that I had, I created a bit of a background. I used one of my own monsters from a digital kit. I tried to make him pop by blacking out the background, and then regretted it because I thought it looked too dull. So I was doing desperately what I could to kind of brighten it up again. So I've kind of drawn little stars and things like that. But yeah, it's okay. It's not my favourite, but it's okay. This one is okay. I used rice paper for this, and it should have been a simple, easy page, but I actually ended up wrestling with it quite a bit. But it's okay. It kind of got there. This one was a cheat page. Now, actually, I cheated and realised that, because I saw this in my bit box, and I was like, oh, I can just stick it on, it's ready to go. But I think on TV I was actually demonstrating creating a shadow, and I've obviously done that there, but then not on the rest of the image. So I think I probably need to build that up. I might do that one day, but that's not today. But it's fine. It's fine. It's all good. Again, because I was on a mission to try and finish this journal in this video, I just went for like, let's go quick and easy. And what was good about that is it taught me that you don't actually need loads of time to sit down and create, especially if you've got a bit box and a few coloured images. If you've got 5-10 minutes, you can sit down and create a beautiful page. You don't need ages, and you don't need a complicated page. You can make it really simple, but you've been able to be creative, and being creative every day is just really good for you. So this was a girl that was in my bit box. These were some leftover kind of circles that I'd punched for the workshop. So I did the same technique of having it all down, but I put her in front and then just did a little bit of grounding and called it a day at that. This one I adore. I struggled with the trees, but I love this background. I love the icy background, and it's definitely something that I want to play with a bit more. And this is one of my free digis from last year. If I remember, I will link that in the description box below. This was a page that I did in the first video of this journal, and it was how to overcome the fear of starting a journal. And one of my tips was just to create an ugly page. So create a page, make it a mess, then no matter what you create after that, you know that you've created your worst page, and it's not going to get any worse than this. So this was me just scribbling a few different nail colours, and I sploshed some paint around. I scribbled. It was actually very freeing. I quite enjoyed the process of it. And then I just put, I am making a mess because this is my journal. So I did that, and then you don't need to worry then. Any page after that, you've already done your worst page. So it takes away that fear of ruining it because you've already done that. This was me trying to get, this was the last page to finish the journal, so I went really quick and easy. This was a girl in my bit box. I cut her out, stuck her down, just drew a whole load of acrylic dots and outlined some of them, and life is too short not to be creative. And then the very final page is what I use on most of my journals, is when I get a new journal, if it's paper that I'm not familiar with, I treat half of it and I leave untreated, and I just see how things respond, so how the different mediums respond, and then I know when I'm working on the pages. So yeah, that's that. So this is this journal all finished. Thank you for joining me on the tour of this. Thank you so much for joining me as we have flipped through this. I've really enjoyed it. This journal really has helped me to solidify the importance of just experimenting and playing in your journal and not taking yourself too seriously in it, and how by doing that it really helps you to grow as an artist and a crafter. So thank you for watching this. If you have enjoyed this, you may want to check out my brand new series From Sketchbook to Craft Desk, where some of my sketches are turned into something that you can download and play with in your journal. So feel free to go check it out and let me know which page was your favourite. I'll see you next time. See you Friday. Bye.